Okay, thank you so much, guys, for coming and for taking the time. More importantly, for yourself, like showing up for yourself and actually making the live. And if you're watching the recording, then kudos to you too for watching the recording. I just appreciate you taking the time and trusting me to deliver this a message for you. So I'm just going to jump right in. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Andrea. A little bit of a backstory, although I have the tendency to be organized. I consider it almost like a hobby. I just love it. As a child, have come into situations in my life where I have become cluttered, and that feeling and that loss of control is something that I can totally relate to with my clients. I was working in my previous career as a laboratory technologist at a hospital, and I worked an hour and a half from home. So it was a big commute. I had two small kids. They were in before school program, they were in after school program. My husband worked nonstop. It was a busy time, and I felt like my house was getting out of control. And the amount of stuff that was coming in was not equaling the amount of stuff that was going out, and things were starting to get very cluttered. So I started to recognize that, it was affecting me and my mental well-being and just my day to day. And so I started to slowly, with the time that I had, which was limited, start to, pare down things, declutter, reevaluate, set up organizing systems. And I can tell you it changed my life in that it just made everything feel more manageable. Like that mental load of having to think about all the things and make decisions about all things was pretty much gone because, I have what I have. And of course, I have some stuff that I need to go through. I'm not perfect. But for the most part, I am uncluttered, and it's a good feeling. So I came into professional organizing as a career. I've been in business for over 3 years now, and my passion is helping women and families get a control of their house again and feel empowered to do so and have confident decisions when making decluttering decisions. So we'll jump right in. I didn't confirm that you could see my screen. So I've got the presentation up. If you cannot, you can just add in the chat that you can't see the slides, but I'm pretty sure we're good here. So I'm just going to continue. Okay, so what's in for you? What is this workshop in it for you? So essentially, I want to give you the tools, the know-how on how to declutter your home using just like no fluff, simple strategies. A big part of this workshop is learning your barriers in terms of what is stopping you from making those decluttering decisions, which is extremely important because once you recognize or understand what it is that's stopping you from making decluttering decisions, you can evaluate and then move forward. Um, Oops, I did a wrong click. There we go. Okay. So quickly, these sections, I'm going to talk about mindset. So why mindset matters. And again, it's a big bulk of decluttering. I don't think a lot of people struggle with the physical aspect of obviously moving this stuff out of the home. Mind you, some clients do, but for the most part, it's a mindset thing. It's getting your head wrapped around giving up things. I want to teach you how to make confident decisions, tackling tough stuff like sentimental stuff, which is really challenging for a lot of us, myself included. I want to talk about making a plan. So, what is your plan to get your home into a state that you want it to be? And then your decluttering toolbox. So, these are simple. Um, these are like the supplies that you need to actually get the work done. So, very practical, straightforward information, and then keeping it clutter free. And I'm just going to check because I think I've got a message from a registrant. So, don't mind 1 second here. Okay, now we're good. Okay, so next slide. So this is my dog, and I wanted to introduce her because she sits with me in my office. So she's right in front of or behind my computer on the chair, and she might bark or she might jump up and pay us a little visit. But in case that she barks, you know that she's there, and her name's Athena, and she's my little sidekick. So, okay, let's continue on. So what is clutter? So often when I talk about clutter, people sort of have a negative connotation about that word clutter, and sometimes it can feel almost offensive, like because these are your belongings, this is my stuff. It's not clutter. Clutter is not to mean it's not to have that negative connotation. It's essentially just items in your house that no longer serve you. They don't serve a clear purpose, or they don't bring you joy, but they continue to take up space in your home, physically, and they also tend to take up space mentally. And so clutter is clutter can present in so many forms. Obviously, clutter can be on the surfaces. I think that's the part that people kind of envision mostly is like cluttered surfaces and whatnot. But clutter can also exist in like bins that are like nicely stacked and organized in your basement. And we call them clutter because they're no longer serving you, and oftentimes they're not really bringing you joy, but you're having that hard time letting it go. So there's all forms of clutter. So with all due respect, when I say clutter, this is what I mean. So how does, like, what happens? Like, why do we get clutter? Well, it tends to accumulate when we delay decisions. So things are coming into the house or things are becoming, they're not useful anymore. So you kind of tuck them away and you think like, I'm going to use them one day, or I spent a lot of money on that. And so you're delaying this decision of the fate of the item by kind of storing it. And we're holding on to it because either we feel guilty or we feel obligated. And I'll go into those feelings in a little bit. So, what happens when we have excess in our home, but our mindset isn't quite ready to let go, which is most often the case. So, I think the focus is when you are having a hard time, when you say to yourself, I need to declutter my home, I just can't do it. Like you feel stuck. So, and it's often, more often than not, your mindset is stuck on what you're going to lose, what you have to give away, what you don't want to let go of. So it's very negative. So it's always, and I'll talk a little bit about how we kind of move, how we kind of make that shift from thinking about decluttering as this terrible, horrible thing of letting go to thinking about what are we going to get? What are we going to get at the end when we actually confidently make decisions and let things go? So, what happens when we're stuck in this mindset? We start really enthusiastically. We're like, I'm going to declutter my basement, my office, my garage in one weekend. Completely unrealistic, right? Like it's hard. There's a lot of stuff. You get decision fatigue. Your brain gets tired because you're constantly making decisions, and you get to the point where it's just easier to say keep, keep, keep. You're not confident about your decisions. You're not trusting your decisions. You feel overwhelmed and you give up, right? So this is extremely common. So, what's possible when we let go? So, the question kind of is like, why do we hang on when we know deep down that we would probably feel better if we let go? I kind of equated it to, and I was thinking about it. It's almost like when you say to yourself, okay, Monday, I'm going to start eating really healthy. I'm going to eat salads. I'm not going to eat sugar. I'm not going to eat cake. And I'm going to go to the gym. And so you start doing it and you start to feel really good. You're like, my clothes fit a little bit better. I don't feel sluggish. I don't feel as bloated. And then you start to miss a couple of workouts. You start to eat out a little bit. You kind of slip back into your old patterns and routines. And then you say to yourself, why did I do that? I was feeling so good. I was working out. I was doing all the things. Why did I do that to myself? Why do I do that when I know the end result is good? But I just kind of slip back into these patterns. It's the same as decluttering because it's hard. Decluttering can be hard. It doesn't have to be hard, but it can be hard. So, but we have to think of again the gains because it's a slow gain, just like when you're eating right and exercising, you got to wait for the results to come, right? It's kind of like that with decluttering because more often than not, there's a lot that you need to go through. So, what's possible when we actually decide to let go and we can follow through? Well, obviously, less stuff to physically and mentally manage. You have the freedom to create spaces for the life that you want, like the physical spaces. You have, and this is like my most favorite. Because I don't love cleaning, but you have less time to clean and tidy your home. It's been shown that it's 40% less time cleaning your home because think about it, when you have to go clean, you have to move stuff. And if there's stuff on countertops and there's stuff on the floor, like it's a big deal to wash the floor, clean the floor when you have to manage the stuff. And then from this, obviously, you get reduced stress, mental clutter, you feel calmer. It's easier to find what you need, and you don't buy so many duplicates. That's a big thing too, is we buy a lot of duplicates because we really don't know what we have. So this can seem all overwhelming because you probably are seeing yourselves in these sort of decluttering patterns. You're resonating with what I'm saying, and it can feel like, oh my gosh, like I don't really want to hear this because it is hard. So I always say we need to start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. Right? It's progress over perfection. And I'll talk a little bit about that. Is we're just going to do a little bit and we're going to chip away and we're going to get momentum and we're going to feel better and we're going to want to do more. So I had originally this clutter quiz within the presentation, but I opted to take it out because it was quite heavy and it was really, it made the presentation quite long and I didn't want to have you here for 3 hours because you'd all be sleeping. So if you want to do a clutter quiz, and it's basically just kind of describes your organizing style and your clutter style kind of, because the most important part when you're learning to declutter is recognizing what barriers you have. And sometimes you don't really know what those are. So I was actually doing the quiz and I kind of answered each one to kind of get a different result because I wanted to see what all the results were. And one of them, and I was actually shocked, one of the styles was like 100% my daughter. So my daughter's room is cluttered. She has every surface. She's got like a desk and a dresser, and she's got lots of stuff all over it. And she loves to have her stuff out. Like she just wants to see her stuff. And it's actually like a clutter type is that you're a very visual person that she doesn't like to like put her folded clothes inside the drawer because she has to see them. So she puts her folded clothes on her desk and she's got like so you can imagine it's a little bit of a contention with me because I like to have things kind of hidden. I'm a totally different organizing style than her. So but she's a teenager and I'm like, you know what, there's no harm. If this is how you like your room, this is how you like your room. So let's move on. But anyways, it's kind of interesting to see what kind of style you are. Oh, okay. Whoops, I clicked the wrong button. I clicked sorry, 1 second. There we go. I clicked on the link to the quiz and I just did it again. Look at that. I gotta click. It's fussy. Okay, there we go. So, what is keeping you stuck with clutter? So, these are common things that I see across the board. And thank you to those of you who filled out the questionnaire because I got a number of questionnaires back, which was nice, the surveys, and you kind of indicated what your pain points or what you struggled with. So, that was nice to see. And so these are sort of recognizing, as I said, what is holding you back can help you move past it and sort of move forward. So I want to take note because these are kind of the common ones. So you might resonate with one or two, you might resonate with all of the reasons, or you might not resonate with any of them. I did want to mention that clutter sometimes is becomes an issue for clients who are maybe suffering from depression, illness, life events that have caused them not to be able to be in a season of life where they can declutter. That is not what I'm speaking about in these slides. These slides are basically for the individual who feels like, you know, they have a cluttered space, they're ready to do it. They just have like these barriers with their mindset and getting to the next step. But I did want to take note that there are life events and situations where it is difficult for you to manage your house and then therefore clutter arises. So I wanted to make sure I noted that. Okay, so the first one, your stuff is keeping you in the past. So what do I mean by that? So we all have memories of our past and good memories, whether it be like when our kids are small, whether it be when, you know, you worked a certain job or whatever it is, they're good memories that you have. And so what happens is we attach value to the items that served us during those years, but they no longer serve us. So for example, like old hobbies that you're not doing anymore, technology. You know, a lot of people will keep like old phones, old cameras, that sort of thing. Clothing maybe that doesn't fit you, you haven't worn it in years, it's maybe not in style, but you hang on to it because it was a part of your past. Books. So these objects are physical reminders of the experiences that we have. Um, but it's not a reason to keep the items. Now, please note that I am all for keeping sentimental items because I'm not like, get rid of it all, throw it all out. Let's not, you know, that's not realistic. But what I'm going to teach you is that we can still honor the past and keep those special things without having to keep it all. And I'll talk a little bit about that. So I had a client who had a main floor room and it was quite cluttered. And we were working in her dining room space. And she told me all these beautiful stories about these dinner parties that she used to have with lots of people. So she had like every kind of serving platter you can imagine, like the tiered displayed shelves, not shelves, like servery. She had like gravy boats and butter melters and all these beautiful things. And she hadn't hosted a party in about probably about 20 years. She had had a divorce and she wasn't connected to that part of her family anymore. And she really had a hard time letting go of these items because it just reminded her of the times that she had. So it became difficult. So in the event that you feel like this may be one of your barriers, we have to sort of get to the why. Like, why are you feeling like this? So ask yourself questions like, is hanging on to this item in alignment with the life that I want to create for myself? So for this particular client, because she had this big, huge dining table and she wasn't serving anybody, she wasn't hosting anybody, it was a really loss of space for the room. So we had come up with a resolution of why don't we do a smaller dining table so you can host your immediate family, which she did regularly, and then do like a reading chair because she used to love to read, a reading chair with a lamp in front of like the window because it was a beautiful room. And so she ended up doing that. And then she selected the pieces that she loved, like in a few pieces, and she was able to display them and she was able to use them. So, instead of having three or four of those three-tiered serving platters, she kept one and she used it for her immediate family. So it's just kind of allowing yourself to like feel feelings of loss when you're giving up those things, but not to get stuck in that and to kind of move on and give yourself permission. Okay, I'm gonna keep one box, or I'm gonna keep, the items that really preserve that time, place, or age. So honor it and let it tell its story by being displayed where you can see it or where you can use it. So other things, so sort of like affirmations that you can tell yourself as you're kind of hitting these emotions. Things like letting go of my stuff from the past creates space for new memories, or I can honor my past without having to keep it all, or by keeping only what serves my present, I create the future I truly want. Okay, so another sort of clutter block is the emotional avoidance. And this is a tough one and this is quite common as well, obviously. So we want to avoid feelings that come up when we start to go through our belongings because, sometimes it's guilt that you had from a gift. Sometimes you feel guilty because it's a project you never completed. Sometimes the item is from like a relationship that didn't work out. And so there's lots of feelings that come up and it can be very tough. And you're thinking that temporary discomfort as I'm going through the stuff is harder than actually just telling myself I just want to keep it. I just want to keep it and then I don't need to go through these kind of feelings. So it is important to understand that that may be one of your barriers and to kind of get a little bit deeper and understand why that might be coming up for you. So asking yourself questions like, what specific feeling comes up when I think about letting this go? Or what am I afraid of? What am I afraid of that's going to happen if I don't keep this? And it's funny because obviously there's other deeper emotional things that go with this. But a lot of times I have clients and they say, "Oh my goodness, my sister-in-law gave this to me." And we're in their basement under the stairs, and my sister-in-law gave this. I never liked it. It's an ugly vase. It's like I hate it, and but I just can't let it go. And I said, "Well, why? Like, what are you afraid is going to happen if you let it go?" And she said, "Well, what if she comes over and asks for it?" I don't know, but I think your sister-in-law's been coming over for like 15 years, and I don't think she's going to ask for the space. She probably doesn't even remember giving it to you. So, just remember that, your family members, I don't know, I've never had that. I've never heard of a client story where someone has come looking. I'm sure there is an aunt or an uncle or someone who might do that, but they're not coming to look for their stuff. Half the time they probably don't remember they gave it to you. Ask yourself questions like, does keeping the item bring me comfort? Is this actually something that's a positive feeling for me? How would I feel if this space were completely cleared instead? And if I had to keep one meaningful item, like, would that be enough? So these are kind of questions to ask yourself. So also some affirmations that you can say if this comes up for you. So the love remains even when the items don't. So, a lot of times if you have a close relationship with a loved one, your grandma knits or crochets blankets and you hung on to them and you have such an attachment to them. More often than not, clients will have, 10 or like five or six blankets made by the same person, right? So learning to kind of look at the best and let go of the rest might be an option for you. Saying things like, my loved one would want me to feel light, not burdened. Like, I don't think anybody gives a gift thinking, I want them to keep this gift forever, or, I want them to feel burdened by this because they're not going to know what to do with it in 5, 10 years, right? Their loved ones gave us the gift to make us feel good. And if it's not making you feel good, then, it's okay to let it go. And then projects, like letting go of projects will make space for what truly matters now. And then just trusting yourself again, that keeps coming up time and time again. The third clutter block or resistance that you might have is my stuff tells me who I am. So, clutter often serves as a manifestation of our identity, like who we see ourselves as. And we struggle to let go of some possessions because it's almost like the possessions are intertwined with how we want to see ourselves. So, this one actually resonated with me because in my previous career, I was a medical laboratory technologist, and I had a lot of pride in working in the hospital and helping doctors diagnose patients and support patient care. And I, went through the whole education and the programming, and I had tons of notes, like study books and study notes and textbooks and things from my time of going to school. And I hung on to them for years and years. And then I decided I'm leaving the profession. I need to spend a little bit more time at home with my kids. So I made that decision and I left. And still, even knowing I wasn't going back, I still had these containers of notes and books. And then I thought, even if I had to look up something, there's no way I'm going to go to these containers and go through these binders and find what I'm looking for. Like, I can just Google it or I can ask ChatGPT. Like, I don't need this anymore. So sometimes it is difficult for people to let go because they feel like that's such a sense of who they are. So other examples of that, and by the way, I did let it go, but it took me years, and I don't miss it. I don't want the bins because I felt like I was just moving it from here to there. So it was a good thing for me. But other examples of sort of this reasoning that comes up is, and what it's called for me, it was called professional identity attachment. And I see a lot of like retired teachers, for example, keeping like classroom decor or classroom lesson plans and not really keeping it with the intent of giving it to anybody because, they didn't really have anybody in their circle that they could give it to, but keeping it because that was such a big part of their life, which is understandable. Another way that this comes through is identity shopping. So, not so much talking about getting rid of the clutter, but sort of bringing it in. Purchasing items. So, you purchase items not for the function, but because they help us feel like a certain type of person. So, like, certain brand of clothes or like, so this kind of comes in the form of like a lot of clients will have like clothes with tags on them or items still in the bag that they haven't taken out. Things that they want to like for example, for me, for example, and I haven't done this, but just to give you sort of an example, I like to wear like dark clothes. Like I'm normally, and I'm wearing white today, but normally like, black sweatshirts, tights, whatever, like very comfortable kind of stuff. I would be like, go to the mall and get this red dress that's like all sparkly and fancy and flashy. And then get home, it's like, that's not me. Like I'm thinking, oh, maybe I should be a little bit brighter and dress different and be this different person. But at the end of the day, it's not me. So it's just going to hang in my closet. The last one, and this one's quite common too, is keeping family memory keeper, like keeping every project your child's ever created because you identify as a parent and you're deeply tied to the physical memories of your children. So this stuff is a little bit tough, but moving forward, understanding your why. So asking yourself, for example, the retired teacher, if I no longer had these things, how would I feel? Like identity shopping, like how might I pursue this identity in ways that I'm not accumulating things? And then the family memory keeper, what specific memory am I trying to preserve? And could I honor it differently without having to keep everything? So again, telling yourself affirmations, making that mindset shift. I am more than the things that I own. My identity exists within me and not in the stuff that I have. And I can still honor my past without being surrounded by it. So you can see the common theme in terms of the affirmations. So the fourth clutter block is the stuff for the life I want. So many of us accumulate what's called aspirational clutter. So, and again, when I say clutter, I'm just talking about things that aren't serving us in our life today or bringing us joy. So, for example, we purchase items for the life that we wish we had. So again, I had a client who wanted to start running. So she instead of starting to run, she bought like it was old, like they were old things. So it was a Garmin, I think it was called, where they track your kilometers. She had like running jackets and running gear and like really nice like running hats and all the things running books like with training programs and how to train for a marathon and all the things. And then she actually started to run and she hated it. She thought like I don't want to be a runner. I don't want to run. And so, but she had a hard time letting go because it was like, well, maybe I'll get back into it. And, because she really wanted to be not so much a runner, but it kind of came down to she just really wanted to be fit and active. So it was just kind of having those conversations as to, okay, like you can be fit and active doing something that you like, and not having to accumulate stuff to do it. Right. So it's just kind of coming to that realization. And also these items sometimes like by keeping them around, they're just reminders to us that perhaps like, maybe it wasn't a good decision to buy all those things, or it just makes us feel like we didn't fulfill like those intentions, which sometimes doesn't feel good. So again, understand the why. So it's important to understand your purchase pattern. So when you buy things or why you buy things, and seeing is there a disconnect between what I'm buying and the life I'm actually having, or actually my life now, and what am I feeling? And actually, what feeling am I actually, there's a typo there, sorry. What feeling am I actually trying to buy? So what is the real barrier between this lifestyle and the thing? So is it time, skill, priority, or something else? So again, ask yourself, is with will my actual self, I kind of giggled at this because when you're shopping and you're like, oh, I don't know, like I'm actually gonna wear this, I'm actually gonna use it. So it's like, will my actual self with my real schedule and preference truly use this, right? So just really taking the pause, and then remembering that the stuff is not going to get you there, but the action will. Okay, this one again. Extremely common, extremely common. Even myself, I've struggled with this one a lot because, again, like you pay good money for things and it feels extremely wasteful to get rid of it. So if you find yourself saying things like, but I paid a lot for that, or I don't want it to go to waste, or I might use it, this might be a clutter block for you. So, unfortunately, we are all going to buy items we don't use because nowadays, with social media and all the things, we are constantly being bombarded by marketing. Buy this. This is going to make your skin good. This is going to, make you look skinny. This is going to, it's like so much. Um, so but this essentially is not a reason to keep unused items. So I try to reframe clients when we're talking, because they said, well, I paid really good money for it. And I say, well, the money's gone. Like the money's been spent. It's out of your account. And by keeping this item, the money's not coming back into your account. It's not going to be credited to your account. It's gone. But what's happening by keeping this is when you know you don't want it, it's just taking up again space. It's taking up peace of mind. It's taking up your attention because you're having to deal with it. And then every item that you keep out of guilt is just like a visual reminder that it's not being used. So we don't want to get stuck there. So think of things like get curious again, ask about why. Why do I feel like I can't let this go because I spent money on it, even though this money's been spent and I don't use it and it's just taking up space. So when you think about the item's cost, what emotions come up first? Like, are you disappointed? Are you regretful? Are you guilty? All of these things are normal to feel, obviously. And sit with those feelings for a little bit and then move on. So, and this always hits home for a lot of clients too. Like, what would you tell your friend who is keeping something solely because of what they paid for it? Like, what would you say to your friend if she had a $500 dress sitting in her closet that she couldn't try to sell or donate or whatever just because of the price, but she doesn't have room to put her other clothes and it's kind of she sees it every time she goes in her closet. What would you say to your friend? And you probably say to your friend, like, try to sell it, like get rid of it. um so almost like how you treat your friend, treat yourself, you know what I mean? Treat yourself, have compassion. So again, affirmations that you can tell yourself: would I pay this amount, the same amount today for the stress that this unused item has caused me? By letting go, I'm not wasting money. I'm reclaiming my space, my time, and my mental clarity. And then, will I use this item enough to justify it and the space that it occupies? Right? So, and truly being honest with yourself with those things. Okay, again, we're talking a lot about like these feelings and I'm sure it's resonating with you in terms of like how you feel when you're approaching your when you're trying to declutter certain areas of your home. The goal here is progress over perfection. We're not running a race. We're not looking for perfection. We're not looking for like Instagram worthy perfection. That stuff doesn't exist. Okay, it exists, but in a very small percentage of people, and a lot of people can't live to that standard of perfection, let's be honest. So real lasting change comes through very small, consistent steps. So if you're consistently taking the small steps to help you declutter and reclaim back your home, it's gonna you're in a win-win situation, right? So you want to replace that fixed mindset that, a lot of people just say, well, I just can't let go of things. And that's not really true. You can let go of things. You just have to learn how to get rid of things. You have to shift your mindset so that you can actively make good decisions. And you have to think about what's going to happen when you get rid of those things. What is the reward at the end, right? So break free from the all or nothing trap. You don't have to get your house completely all organized. Just start in one little section and move along. So again, shift away from the idea that decluttering takes a lot of time. Like, a lot of the responses from the survey too were, I just don't have time to declutter. And that's because I think the mentality is when you say, okay, we're going to declutter, you're thinking you have to get like your whole basement done in a weekend. Like you have to get your whole office done, in 2 days. And that's not the case. So step away from believing that it takes a huge chunk of time. It doesn't. It takes little bits of time. I mean, it can take a huge chunk of time if you have that devotion and motivation. But if you don't, and you find it extremely fatiguing and tiring and challenging, then just do little blocks of time. And each little block is going to build on itself. You're going to use that decision-making process. It's going to get stronger. You're going to feel more confident and you're going to be able to let things go. So again, start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. I love that little quote. Okay, that's all about the mindset. There's still a little bit more about mindset, but not really. Okay, so decision confidence. So even though now you have a better understanding, or maybe you're sort of resonating with some of the reasons why you have a hard time to let go of clutter, I want to give you some practical advice on how to confidently make decisions about letting go. So I took some examples from the surveys that you guys did, and I sort of responded to those. So this is common. I don't want it to end up in the trash, right? You feel bad. You feel guilty, like, oh, this is a shame. Like, it's a shame that I have to take this now and it's going to go into the dump. So here's the truth, and it's a hard truth. Everything becomes trash eventually. Everything, whether it's going to be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 100 years, it's all going to go in the garbage, right? Which is hard to hear because, you do feel a little bit guilty. But the decision was ultimately made at the time of purchase, right? Like you're bringing this stuff into your house and now you need to decide on what to do with it. So by delaying the disposal, even though it's something maybe you're not able to donate it, you're not able to recycle it, and it really does need to go in the trash, it's almost like you need to get over that hump of thinking that, you don't want to be wasteful. It's already going to go to the disposal at some point. So by delaying it, it's just is not valuable for you because it's taking up space in your home. So you might as well just take it where it needs to go and be done with it. But you can also consider specialized recycling programs. Like there's tons of programs like electronic recycling, like Best Buy will take back phones and electronics, textile recycling. So if you have sheets, even donating to the Humane Society, like sheets and towels, if you have that, the library will they have drives where they take textbooks and books. So all of those things, you don't have to feel like you're being super wasteful because you're giving it a new life. Another thought that can lead to decision paralysis is the items I want to get rid of are not worth the work to sell them. And this is from a registrant for the workshop. She said, I feel like it's just easier to keep the stuff because it's too good to donate. But that's a perfect reason to donate. If it's not serving you in your life, you're not feeling joy from it, think about giving somebody that chance to get it gets immediate use. You're giving the item, you're not wasting it. you're giving it to someone who's actually going to use it and enjoy it. So definitely don't think about selling as a waste of time. And so the alternative is just to keep it. Donate it, and someone can use it and love it, and it gets a new life, and you get your space back and your mental clarity back. And it's one less thing you have to manage and one less decision you have to make. Okay, this is another one, very common. What if I keep saying that, very common, because all of these things are very common. What if I need it later and have to rebuy it? So just in case items, and I can't even tell you where I got the statistics, but I've read it over and over and over, is that actually items only get, just in case items actually get used 20% of the time. So it's not likely that you're going to have to just in case items, because those just in case items, usually you have them in like areas where you know you're going to reuse them again. But this is just kind of like, you get to the point where we're like, oh, like I don't need it. It's not serving me now, but what if? So think about different options. Like, what if, like, for example, my husband, every time he fixes something, he says he has to buy a new tool. And I said, no, you don't have to buy a new tool. No, no, no. I said, we have a street full of people who love to do like DIY kind of stuff and like ask somebody to borrow, like one time use, not like obviously you're not going to take advantage of your neighbors, but a one time use to borrow a tool is I'm sure people will be happy to do that and you would be happy to do the same. So think of it like that. There's also a 20/20 rule. So if it's obviously if it's a little bit more expensive and you think you might use it, it might be swayed to keep it. But if it's something like cheap, like I know, like light switches or like like you have lots of extension cords or something, if you can replace it in under 20 minutes for under $20, then it's okay to let it go. And then ask yourself, when is the last time I actually needed this? Like, when is the last time I actually needed it? And if it's been more than a year, then you could probably seriously consider letting it go. So other ways so those are kind of the thoughts that kind of creep up when we're trying to be confident about our decisions. But what do we do in general when we're trying to make confident decisions? We always want to start with our why. So this is a huge driving point because we tend to lose that when we get into the depths of making decluttering decisions. So why are you wanting to declutter? What is it that you're going to gain, right? So getting that shift, moving from the negative, I have to give it up, I'm going to lose something, to the positive, like, look what's going to come of this. And trust yourself to make those decisions because you know more than anything, because these are your belongings, that you're going to make a good decision. Because if you're really honest with yourself, that you don't need the item. And so you are okay with letting it go. So pause to notice your immediate reaction. So many times I've been with clients and, we're opening boxes, like whatever, it's in a basement or whatever, and they open the box and they're like, oh, like not these. And so right there, like obviously this thing, whatever's inside is causing you stress. You're obviously not joyful when you see it. You're not using it because it's stuffed, in a box underneath your stairs. So notice your immediate response and then go from there and say, okay, you know what? I don't need this. And then trust that even you made a decision. When you make a decision, it isn't wrong. And even if you occasionally miss something, it's not the wrong decision. So just to give yourself a little bit of grace there. Okay, this is the tough stuff. So, sentimental items. I advise, and I'll talk a little bit about when we talk about the plan to get your home decluttered. It's always good to leave the sentimental stuff to the end, meaning if you're just starting your decluttering journey and you have a hard time letting go of, just the regular everyday things, you do not want to start with sentimental items because it will probably throw you off your tracks and you'll never want to declutter again. So, if you are feeling confident and strong in making decisions about like kitchen utensils and like paperwork and those sorts of things, and you feel like you're ready to move on to sentimental items, it's not because you need to be fearful of letting those things go. It's just a harder decision making process. But I'm going to show you ways to honor those sentimental items without having to keep every single thing. So I love this. Keep the best, let go of the rest. So, what does that mean? So, again, we usually have multiples of something when it comes to sentimental items. So, like I mentioned, like crocheted blankets, you might have 4 or 5 of them. Keep the very best. Keep the one that's like really triggering the positive, happy emotions and let go of the rest. Things like kids' artwork, like go through the kids' artwork. Some things you're looking at, you're like, I don't even know what this was. I don't remember this, whatever that is. And you can have your children be involved if they so wish and if you so wish. But when you look at a certain piece of artwork, like I always tend to keep the Mother's Day cards and the things that they made, like the footprints and the handprints, because I feel like that's just a point in time that, I want to honor and keep those. So I do, I honor and keep them, and I have them in a little file box and by age, by grade, but I only keep like three or four in each little file because the rest didn't, the rest were just class things that they did or whatever. And I just like keep the best and let go of the rest, right? So the love that you have for that person is obviously inside you. It's not in the items. So you don't have to be afraid to let those things go. Um, so create a memory box. So sometimes you can create a memory box for a person. So if your grandma passed and you want to keep a memory box of just her or your mother, your father, this is, my mom's memory box. Something, you can put it in a really beautiful container and place like whatever it is that you have that was special to her and to you or to him and to you. Um, and then you can honor it. You can keep it on the top shelf of your closet and you can bring it down when you feel like you need to look at it. Is a much better situation than having 10 bins of miscellaneous stuff. You don't even know what's in there and you're never going to go to it and find it because it's behind a whole bunch of other containers. You can't even get to it. Another thing, and my friend actually did this, her father had passed and she had taken his favorite shirt and had a pillow made out of it, like a pillow cover, that she kept on her bed. And I thought that was lovely because instead of the shirt, stuffed in a box somewhere or hanging, where she's never going to see it, like she had this pillow made and it was like a beautiful thing that she could honor him. Shadow boxes. So if you want to keep like little displays of like little things from a family member, you can display it in a shadow box. So the idea is basically to honor those sentimental items. And we're not really, if we're being honest with ourselves, honoring those items when they're stored away because we can't get to them. They're not really telling a story. If you have things out, and I'm not saying you need to like, put all your children's artwork all over the wall. No, I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that choose what works for you and displaying or honoring those things. So another from collections. So lots of people have collections. I have a lot of excuse me, clients who have collections of china from, aunts and grandmothers and, stuff that's been passed on, like beautiful stuff. But there's like 12 seatings, that's not the right word, but like 12 sets or like 14 sets or whatever, like these huge sets that they're never going to use. And so keep a set, and display it in a case so that you can see it every day, or you can use it when you want to have a special cup of tea and you want to use like your grandmother's teacup, like those types of things, like really honor and use them. Okay, so we're going to get to the plan. So this is kind of the more practical stuff. So we talked about like the mindset shift, the decluttering patterns we kind of fall into, the barriers we may have, how to make confident decisions. Now we have to get into like, okay, now what? Now what are we going to do? Where are we going to start our decluttering journey? So if you're at the beginning of your decluttering journey, I mentioned stay away from sentimental items because that becomes a little bit tricky. But start in places that are considered quick win, highly visible spaces. So, for example, if your kitchen is very cluttered, your cabinets are cluttered, and you've got stuff on your countertops and you're just feeling like there's just so much clutter. Start where if you're like a coffee drinker and you've got a cupboard full of mugs and they're toppling over each other and you've got to store some on the surface of your counter or whatever that looks like for you. Start there. Start with one cupboard. Take out the mugs because we all have our favorite mugs. I don't care what anyone says. We all go for our favorite mugs, and there's like 20 other ones that we probably wouldn't touch unless we absolutely had to. So decluttering and getting rid of like mugs, for example. And then that quick win is going to be highly visible for you, and it creates a momentum for you to keep going, right? Again, start with, low emotion areas. So avoid sentimental and avoid areas where you have to rely on someone else's decision. That's a big thing too. Because I know a lot of us, we start to accumulate furniture and things from family members, parents or grandparents, and other families may have a say in what's happening with those belongings. So don't start in those belongings. Obviously, keep it simple. Decision fatigue. So again, like when you're using your brain and you're having to actively think about keep, donate, sell, why am I keeping this? Why don't I want to let it go? It's fatiguing. So it's always very helpful to just time your sessions and keep them short. Like just say to yourself, okay, I've got 20, 25 minutes. I'm going to set a timer and I'm going to go down to the basement and I'm just going to start at this one section and I'm just going to tackle these one bin or two bins or whatever that is. Cap it off so that you don't feel overwhelmed. But make sure that what you set out to do is enough that you can get it done in that time frame. So and then stick to one area. So we don't want to go to a room and start over here and then go over here and then return something upstairs and it all becomes so overwhelming. So try to stick to an area, stick to a time and stick to okay, I'm going to complete this one bin or two bin or this one drawer, whatever that looks like. I like those little clapping hands. We need more of those clapping hands. Okay, so create momentum. Take pictures. It's always so nice to, because you often forget, or when you get into the depths of it, you think, I can't do it. It's so overwhelming. I can't do it. Snap a picture of what's inside the bin or what's inside, like the area that you're working on. Do a before and after. That really creates it makes you feel good. Like, oh wow, look what I did. I actually did this. This is amazing. And celebrate small wins. I love tea. So if I have to do something I don't like, and which is like administrative work, if I have to send client invoices or do things of that nature, I'm always like, oh, I just need to get this done. So I'm going to sit down, I'm going to do it, and then I'm going to have my cup of tea and I'm going to enjoy it. That's my reward. So try to reward yourself because it's a tough thing to declutter. So what do you need to get the job done? So this is your very practical things in terms of what will help you because when you decide I'm going to take 25 minutes to go down to my basement and go to these bins, you don't want to be running around, oh, I need a garbage bag, oh, I need a recycling bin, oh, I should get a Ziploc bag for these tiny pieces. You want to have everything in one spot, even in the bins themselves, like get a couple of bins, stack them in within one another. So you need sorting boxes or bins, one that says relocate. So, you're in your office, but it doesn't belong in your office, or you're going to put it in the relocate bin. You're not going to run upstairs to return it to your bedroom. So you're going to put it and then you'll deal with the relocates after. You want to stay in the space that you've committed to for that time period. Then you'll have a bin that you've labeled with painter's tape, donate, and one that you've labeled with sell if you want to sell. And then you, of course, want garbage bags, recycling bins, box cutters, scissors, if you need to break anything down, a speaker for music, like make it fun, or, put your iPad on, put your favorite show on or something to sort of kind of keep you there. As mentioned, Ziploc bags, sticky notes. So if you have, has to be returned to a friend or, ask my sister if she wants this, that kind of stuff. And then just paper towel and all-purpose cleaner so you can wipe down shelves or whatever you need to do. And then an envelope or file folder, like if you're not working in a paper-heavy room, but you're somewhere else, but papers come up, so you want somewhere to sort of store those. So what do we do when we're all clutter-free, which is hard to imagine sometimes, but it's not so much when you're clutter-free. It's just as you kind of go through the process, it's not a one and done. So, we say all these things and we decluttered, we make great progress, but it's not it's not like, okay, we decluttered once and we never have to do it again. No, that's not the case, right? Seasons change, things come into our home, things leave our home, our needs change. You need to do regular decluttering sessions. So again, keep it short, 15, 20 minutes, focus on a small area, break it up into manageable tasks. And if you start to get on kind of a routine of decluttering as you go along, it just becomes automatic. And then you don't have to have that big time commitment, right? And then it avoids the procrastination. So other things to consider. So these are kind of like clutter checkpoints. So at the point of when you're in the store, essentially, that's a clutter checkpoint because you're making a decision before buying something. So ask yourself, check in, do I already own something similar? Because I know I've been in the situation where, I grab something and we all tend to like the same kind of thing. So I'll grab a pair of leggings and I'll go in. And then I'm thinking, I think I have I'm pretty sure I have almost identical pair of leggings. I don't need these. So just pausing, and what is the purpose of this purchase? And then does the item serve a purpose in my home? Do I have a spot to put it? And am I going to use it in the next little while? one in, one out. I think sometimes people struggle with this a little bit because it just seems so definitive in terms of like something has to go out for something to come in. So that can be a bit of a challenge. But I think for clothing, it works well. So if you are shopping and you buy a new sweater, more often than not, when you come home and you kind of hang up your sweater, you're looking and you think, oh, I don't like that sweater. I don't like that sweater, but it's still sitting there, taking up space. So if you buy something, let something go. It prevents clutter from building up and it kind of maintains your stock of items really. And it encourages intentional shopping because you're thinking, okay, if I buy this, then I really should let something go. Um, of course, if it's like a duplicate or whatever. So your action plan. So I couldn't leave you without an action plan. So this is pretty straightforward. Basically, something to kind of kickstart you into your decluttering journey. So I think it's important to reflect back on what you struggle with in terms of decluttering. So if you review section one, and kind of look at, okay, yeah, I do have these feelings, and yeah, I'm gonna, sort of delve deeper on why I have these feelings, and even things like journaling or just kind of thinking and sitting with the feelings can help you sort of move forward. And then I think it's important to gather and put together your decluttering toolbox. So all those little items that I mentioned, like your garbage bags, your Sharpies, all that, put together a little toolbox. It'll kind of give you the momentum to go forward. And it'll just get you like a step closer. So don't necessarily allot 15 minutes and then use like 12 to make your box. Like make your box and then put a plan in place. Like, okay, what is my plan? What section of my house am I going to target? A drawer, a cupboard, a bin, whatever. And then block out on your calendar. Okay, I'm going to do 20 minutes on Tuesday. I'm going to go down to the basement and declutter one bin. And I've got my toolbox ready with all my supplies and I'm good to go. And bonus, bonus, if you can declutter 3 items in your house over the weekend just to kind of get you, it's just using that muscle and trying to get you to sit with the feelings and understand why you're holding on to things and maybe thinking in a different way so that you can release things and still feel good. And then let me know how it goes if you want to. So again, small steps taken consistently create lasting change, which I love. Okay, question and answer. So I had a couple of submitted questions. So I'm going to answer those first, and then I'm going to stop the recording and open up for questions from the audience. So this question was from a registrant. She has asked, I have a goal to declutter and rearrange my space, but I potentially have the opportunity to move in a few months. So she's asking, do I declutter and work with the layout I have or make all the changes, putting the move aside until it's confirmed? So, sorry. Excuse me. I always say start now. So, especially when it's a move, because you don't want to, in the event that you are moving, you don't want to be pushed up against a timeline that is unrealistic for you to actually go through and process your belongings. Start now, start small, but just start. That's the thing. Just start. Whatever that looks like for you, just start, get the momentum going, exercise those decision-making skills. You will get better. It will get easier. And as you go through, you'll get rid of stuff and you'll start to feel the benefits of that. She mentioned that she bother with the layout. I would say focus on the decluttering piece, and then your reward is kind of, it doesn't sound like it's a renovation. It kind of sounds like you're going to move some furniture around or whatnot. So if you get the decluttering piece done, then start to look at, oh, how can I rearrange my room to serve me better? And it's kind of like the reward at the end, right? Um, and then I had one more question. How do I deal with family who are not on board to declutter? Again, extremely common. I think the key here is to focus on your personal belongings. So if you feel like you're cluttered in areas of your home and as is your family, and you're trying to make those improvements, but your family's not on board, try to make those improvements personally first. So deal with your closet, your workspace, anything that you have control over, make those changes. And you can see, and I even see it sometimes in my family, if I like, organize a certain area or whatever, and it's different, and they're like, oh, they're like, that looks really good. And, it kind of like actions help a little bit more than words. I find that if you're trying to tell your family, you need to clean up, you need to declutter, like it's going in one ear and it's coming out the other. But if you're actually actively doing it yourself, sometimes they can see and they jump on board. The other thing is if you, You don't want to focus on anything personal. Like, for example, your husband, say your husband likes to keep like baseball card collections and tons of clothes and tons of shoes and all the things. Um, don't focus on like his personal stuff, but focus on like functional areas of the home, like the entryway, where, no one's really going to have, I wouldn't think, too much to say or too much resistance about like tidying up an entryway or tidying up like a couple kitchen cabinets. Like, just slowly pick away at what you can. And then talk about, maybe negotiate and talk a little bit about like clutter-free zones. Like, would you be okay if we just kept the clutter off my desk, or, like, work together and come up with some solutions that are going to make them happy and you happy for the beginning. And then as you move along, you can't change people. They have to want to do it. But I think if you start to reap the benefits, like, you're going to start to feel better decluttering your own personal spaces. And then that radiates to the rest of the family, right? Because I know if I feel better, my family's happy because I'm not. You get the picture. Okay, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate it. I'm going to turn the camera off and let the participants in this session answer their questions, confidentially. Um, and we'll go from there. So thank you so much, guys. I hope you got a lot from the presentation. Any questions you have, if you want to reach out, please email me, send me a message on Instagram, whatever that looks like for you, and I'd be happy to help. I'm just gonna stop the recording. Just give me a minute here. Okay, I've stopped the recording.
Okay.
Oh, wait, sorry.